So this is a video directed at the families, landholders of the gigantic wheat belt region. This encompasses grain growers um, and sheep farmers. We're beyond the limits to what a government that's clearly already in crisis, that can't organise anything, that is committing atrocities in your name. If you're a voter, if you're voluntarily supporting this system, you are, you are conforming to this arrangement, then you are in clear, transparent support of this system, and you are, no, I was going to say becoming, but you've already become, you're a cannibalistic culture, and your government has failed you in every regard. The idea that this constitutional monarchy system can support itself in this far afield and this, this amount of time and with this much intrusion of very destructive ideological concepts like communism, socialism, which has basically already installed itself in your capital city. The idea that you're going to go and wave a tin and assume that you are going to get subsidies, plus the vast majority of you being retirement age, so you're going to get subsidies to farm unsustainably on a debt system where you are the highest debt owners in the country. So you want subsidies, you want more debt, you want unemployment benefits, you want medical systems, you want police, you want security in the largest region, in the largest monolithic state, in formerly the largest empire that has been disintegrating for the last 150 years. It's all those wants, it's all those expectations that are leaving the door, or in your case, the farm gate, wide open to allow this communist system to install itself in your capital city. And it's this hoarding mentality that has been passed down, where your ancestors were given these ginormous tracts of land. And coming from England, where it's this false sense of security. And now in a lot of your cases, you're sitting out there with a bunch of retirees selling to regions that are constantly becoming more of a threat to us. They don't look at you as wonderful suppliers. Those Middle Eastern individuals look at you as a speed bump to just come in and take, a bit like your ancestors did. That's the position you're in. You've been falsely led with velvet cushions of social security, of medical guarantees, of pandering to your entire generation group to lead you into this situation. There is no political answer within their system to fix this. The king himself, the royal family himself in Great Britain is under the same threat that you all find yourselves in individually. The idea that he can extend his reach beyond and individually assist farmers that have not led by his example and created structures underneath themselves and, systems of sustainability and systems of economic viability. You have received these large tracts of land. You have received constant benefits and you have received subsidies and you still want more. I'm not sitting here not far different than the state federal Labor Party concept, who are basically just selling your land from underneath you to your customers in security deals to keep you distracted, and then they will just take it. The only chance you have to maintain your holdings is to gather up as many of you as you can, map out regions, find an individual to represent you, i.e. a king, pass that directly with the crown, with contracts or vows of alliance, and then economically stimulate your own environment, which means convincing FIFO miners that have perhaps gathered some resources from that industry that has put down the welcome mat for our enemies to just take, and provided them with the raw materials that they need to invade us. You need to convince a large enough portion of those individuals, and probably more than likely foreign individuals, and this is where I'd be looking at South Africa at the moment, and you need to establish a kingdom or a new state in order to push the urbanized communists back. But in order to do this, you need to build your own markets, and you need to sell the concept of forward thinking and not guaranteed income. And that's not easy to do, because we've had 20 years of this wage salary based propaganda pumped down every single one of my generation's throats. So we all think that the only way we can compete in the world is to be driving around a Maserati and doing this. And the idea that you're going to go and pioneer degraded land in a global economy that is an absolute mess, it's an illusion. The land has to be the value, and in order for that to happen, you need to give some of it up the same way that it was given to you. This is, at the moment, this is a trade war. And that's, if you go along with the innovation in the world, it is technically a trade war, but it is more akin to the world wars than anything. We've seen World War I and II strategies in this 360-degree surveillance, visual, distribution world, as we've seen in Israel, is not, basically, it's not a good option because there's so much communication. So you need to realize that you're in a war, and you need to act accordingly to your age bracket. And that means relinquishing the holdings you have on these large portions of land and not selling them in a market. That delusion needs to be destroyed in these regional areas. It's the only thing that is stopping those regions from independently stimulating their own economies and defending their own regions. And this is actually the position historically, in a historical timeline, that as European descendants, that we need to get back to. This giganticized state government globalization policies that have been pumped into everyone's realities is a lie. It's a fiction. There is nothing new under the sun. This is the only way you can save your regions and save your communities, and to maintain at least some holdings on your land. And it's not easy, and you're going about it the wrong way. This is too, like, in some ways, what you're saying, you're continuously attacking Labor. Yeah, they need to be attacked, but you need to create structures that can oppose and hold back this urban army that they have built and brought in. And they've brought in countless people from overseas to sit in their police force. And that force right now is attempting to take your guns in order to eventually dispossess you of your land and sell it to the highest bidder in a global market. But that at the moment is invasion. It's not, it will be economic invasion. So you need to create a structure around those regions that makes that a lot more difficult. And the only way you can do that is to draw people in. And there are individuals that are ready to do this, but they need to be resold the idea that freedom and land ownership is the only real metric of value in this global world. They need to throw away their toys, sell them immediately. They need to get out of these suburban prison camps and re-stabilise the entire wheat belt. And without strong, driven and focused leadership in those regions, there's nothing else we can do. It's a complete daydream that you assume you're going to be remunerated with pensions, stimulated by economic stimulation, and supported economically by subsidies or by grants to innovate. That's a fiction. They can't afford anything. They can't even get their social media, which is basically free, to reflect an appropriate message that would be aligned with a state that is that large, has that much economic activity behind it. Please do not be fooled into playing by the rules. You need, and it's not, you actually are playing by the rules, but you need to understand history. I'm sure there's some historians hidden in those regions that know exactly what's going on, but they're probably more than likely not all that social. They're not in these groups. They're not in social. They're sitting there, nose in a book, and they understand exactly what's going on, what needs to be done, historically speaking, on a historic timeline. And they, I assume, are just looking at all of you, despite all your gun waving and your yee-hawing, as a bunch of on the fence socialists about to lose their land. This urban cohort, they're going to describe you as bourgeois, even though that's not the story of the pioneering spirit of Australia. You weren't, in a lot of cases, wealthy people. And that is why you do not have the historic knowledge within your family units to navigate this appropriately, and you are just being drawn continuously into their trap. So you need to put the guns safely in their gun cabinets, have them there at the ready, but you need to go and sell the concept for dirt cheap. Like cut your property in half and sell half of it for the most ridiculously low price that you can before it's too late. If you don't do it, you can't have all things in all seasons all the time. And I fear that based on what I saw during the pandemic, it's this failure to go outside what you're being spoon-fed, what's being put in your trough. That is what is going to lose that entire region. And you need to be incredibly careful, because we are not in a situation that you were being told we're in. We're not all together now. We're not all one big happy state. We're not one big happy family. We're not one big happy background or you know, there is none of that. There is ownership and there is defense of property. And as long, in my opinion, as long as you align yourself from the get-go with the United Kingdom and guarantee to offer support if need be, which is what those land grants were given under, I'm assuming, then I can't see any debate coming from the top end of our system. It is these middlemen, these parasites that have installed themselves in the form of insurance companies, in the form of lawyers, in the form of financial institutions and global financial trade. They are in between, they're in the middle, and they are what's running our state-based politics and a huge portion of our federal politics at the moment. But don't forget how this country was claimed, don't forget how it was built, don't forget where it came from, and don't forget the timeline of that region when making your decisions. The families out there have a huge extended family system that have gone into this urbanized environment, and that, from my perspective, is a huge drain on my ability to innovate economically stable solutions in this country, because I'm being constantly drained from every single dam, if you want to put it in an agricultural sense, of mine, is being drained by your extended families in these urban environments who are expecting to have their entire life paved in gold on a fluffy velvet cushion. It's not the case. It's at the moment, it's socialism on the fence of communism light. And if you don't understand what happens next for your land in that communist story, then maybe you should go and educate yourself in what happens next. Because no matter how many guns you have, no matter how many clay pigeons you think you can shoot out of the air, they will absolutely overrun you unless there is an adequate and structurally sound alliance of that region that is opposing the entire concept of the state of Western Australia. So yeah, I shouldn't be helping you at all. You take a photo next to someone who's basically sent me out of the country, who's a foreign national, who works for a factory farming pig farm for the last thing, who brags about the fact that they don't hire Australians anymore, and who constantly drugs and positions drugs in front of my mother to appease his children's pseudo-scientific exploits in the lowest, scummiest universities in our country. And I shouldn't help you at all, but I am. Because I don't want that state to fall into this system, and I don't want that half the country to be the welcome mat for our economic and political enemies.